none of this is usable.
Yeah. I've always wanted to go to that place in Pennsylvania that does
Lightning bolts.
medieval LARP.
What if you let those guys rent the field to do their medieval thing here?
I would join right in.
You also used to play with a feather in your hat, you normie.
And of course you don't. You've transcended.
No, but
You build one bridge.
it's not just the camaraderie and friendship. It's also when your friends betray you. Like when they don't wake you up at 2 a.m. for the assault.
Well, they tried. They woke the wrong person up.
Should we tell that story?
Yeah, tell the story.
So
I forgive you, but I'm still upset.
So we hate telling airsoft war stories, but this one's really funny.
There's not much war happening here.
No.
This is just...
Okay. With that being said, hi everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Zulu 24 podcast. As always, I am joined by Anthony from Antec Airsoft Studios and Jordan from Zulu Outdoor. Also, special shout out to the Snack Bar. They sell snacks.
The empanadas are banging.
Well, Barbara was like, "What about the Snack Bar?" So I forgot. We used to say that. We used to do that all the time.
We did. To be fair, in our defense, every single episode of the Zulu 24 podcast on YouTube and Spotify, and which also pushes it on to Apple and all the other ones, that aside, has a link to the Snack Bar.
Well, now we're saying it.
Okay.
I tag them in every single Instagram post.
So do I.
Hot food, cold food, red food, blue food, me food, you food. The
I
Snack
remember
Bar.
that. Wow. That's pulling it back. That's
Yeah,
like
brother.
episode 1.
Hey, we need the Snack Bar to repost the airsoft content because they have a page that is not shadow banned. So it's
Yeah. So let's get them shadow banned.
for organic reach.
So the funny thing is you are currently shadow banned.
I know.
No algorithm talk. What's the next topic?
We are not.
Yeah, no more. I'm so
Yeah, I
tired
know.
of talking about the damn algorithm.
I know. It's I eat, sleep, and breathe it.
So anyway, how was your love life?
Yeah.
Well, do we want to talk about little artwork you got?
Yeah, man. Big shout out to Will Hunter. Basically, it was a trade many moons ago. I put my my ML36 up for sale because it's a $900 piece of equipment that only works in my backyard in here.
Yep.
Every single event I went to, it just poo-pooed in its panties, and then when I brought it back, it worked magically. So I said, "This thing," and I was selling it, and he was like, "Hey man, would you be interested in a trade? You know, some artwork for the thing?" And I was like, "Sure, man, I don't care." Like,
Yeah.
that ML36 was the bane of my existence, right? I'm just staring at with the launcher, the CO2 and the rounds is essentially $1,000 that just off. Like we come out here and test it, beautiful.
Yeah.
It works beautiful. I get a boner, great. Take it to an event and then it just in CO2 everywhere. That thing. And I know everybody's gonna be like, well, you have to maintain it. There's seals and all that. Great. That's fine. I'm not into it.
Well, I was going to make the joke there. I was like, it sucks now because at the time I had no idea how to work on them. Now I've worked on Richie's so much, I could take that apart and fix it.
I'm sure you could maybe.
Yeah.
And when I made the trade, I said, Will, this thing has a goblin in it and it only works here, which we can't use them. It only works here and in my backyard. I was like, I just want to be straight up front with it. It's poo-poo caca.
Jordan's gonna start fixing it in exchange for tattoos.
No, I don't have a tattoo. I don't have any.
But so the trade was like he would do some artwork and
Fixing one is not as valuable as like the actual thing that you traded. So his tattoo won't be as big as yours. He might just have a couple teardrops on his face.
spider web on his elbow.
just get a huge cat.
So like a long time goes by, I just kind of forgot about it. I don't care. I trust Will. Will's a good guy, and I'm not going to chase him down and be like, oh, I want an artwork. And then recently he's like, hey man, I got some ideas, and I was just throwing around basically a Minuteman skeletonized with a modern weapon, and then he did the rest, and I think it came out fantastic, man.
I love the wooden stock.
Yes, he's like bringing it kind of old school.
Yeah.
And
It's dope.
Like the line work is fantastic. He used a different.
It was like coilless.
Yeah, it was like a different wand. What do you call it? Tattoo fucking machine. And
Tattoo replica.
Yeah,
Yeah, tattoo replica.
and it was very strange. It felt different. It didn't. It wasn't violent. Like it I don't know, it was gentle. I don't know how to describe it. It didn't hurt at all. I mean, tattoos generally don't hurt at all. It just feels like a sunburn, very precise sunburn, you know. But for some reason, this one was different. It might have been psychological because the old machines are like, wah,
Yeah, it was quiet.
This thing was dead quiet.
And what does it say on the bottom?
Sic Semper Tyrannis. It's basically like death to tyranny and shit like that.
Will said that it was like it was like death to tyrants, but like they do it to themselves, like on their own. They do like on their own accord.
Yeah.
As is the nature of tyranny.
Thus always to tyrants.
Thus always to tyrants, right? Like it's basically like them, right?
Yeah.
I wish I had a better explanation for it. This is probably a much more eloquent fucking way to say that, but
At least it doesn't translate to soup.
Well, when you look it up, it has its origins in 44 BCE with Julius Caesar when he was assassinated. It is funny though when you Google it, it says the phrase has been featured in modern tattoos and on sweatshirts.
Yeah. I also think that when John Wilkes Booth shot Lincoln and then jumped down onto the stage, I'm pretty sure he stood up and was like, "Sic Semper Tyrannis," you know, because he thought he was doing something good.
John Wilkes Booth is Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf's actually an immortal.
Yeah, but do we have pictures of John Wilkes?
It's also the Virginia state
The resemblance.
Yeah.
You'll have to pull it up in the edit, but the resemblance between John Wilkes Booth and Shia LaBeouf is uncanny. They're both actors.
There are many, like examples of that. There are many.
So you're telling
There's like an Italian race car driver that looks like a fucking like carriage.
You're telling
driver.
me that Shia LaBeouf is not an immortal?
No, Shia LaBeouf is a giant steaming pile of fucking dog do.
And yes, you're correct. John Wilkes Booth did write it in his diary.
Oh, he wrote it. Okay.
He wrote in his diary that he shouted it after shooting U.S. President Abraham Lincoln on April 14th, 1865.
Yeah, see? So, but it's cool, man. I like the old style artwork, and I dig it.
It was the most.
Phrase was also used in pro-Confederate Civil War songs.
Dude, why do you have to ruin it? You know what's funny is that a lot of the old, early Betsy Ross style artwork has been unjustly commandeered by these stupid fucking groups. So
there was
like the 1%, well, not 1%ers, but like the Proud Boys and all this stupid. So like there's some really cool fucking old designs that would be really neat that you just can't put on your body because these stupid fucking groups.
Well, that's like a couple years ago. I can pull it up. There was an internal leak from an FBI training class where they were being taught how to recognize domestic. And it was the Betsy Ross flag, the Godson flag, and it literally said at one point, any pro-American Revolution paraphernalia.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, any of these things will get you labeled as a domestic in the FBI's eyes. And I'm like, that is so fucking dumb on so many levels.
Yeah, like, but
right
I
there,
don't know.
Black Rifle Coffee, domestic.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Like, it's been 20 years since I had a tattoo, right? And I forgot how addictive they are.
So now you want another?
Oh, yeah. Like, halfway through that one, I was like, oh man, we could do like George Washington crossing the Delaware. Like,
because it was like you guys got done and almost immediately you looked at Will and you're like, oh, we should do a full sleeve.
Oh, I do. Like, that would be a cool, but again, we have to tiptoe around all these stupid groups that hijack, American history and use it to
because I remember you said at one
spread
point,
hate, fucking stupid shit.
This is a perfect segue. So last episode, I used ChatGPT to come up with some debate topics. And one of the debate topics we didn't talk about is airsoft just an excuse for gun nut culture to flourish in a safe environment? And this is what ChatGPT suggested. And I think it's worth talking about because I think some people outside of airsoft look at airsoft and, they might view it as this place where people come for boogaloo training.
Even though it's just nerds having fun.
Yeah.
We should only hope that, I'll just use the word domestic, right? We should only hope that domestic use airsoft as training. They will be the worst ever, dude. They'll be like hiding behind plywood just because of bad repetitions and training scars, right? We should only hope
the funny part is we understand the humor behind that and what you're getting at. That can get taken out of context. So fast.
Sure. What I don't mean is
that we actually hope.
Yeah, that we actually hope that way. I hope that nobody. Right.
Airsoft as a medium is such a terrible tool because
Airsoft as played on like open play is a terrible way to fucking.
Because if we're just talking about getting in terms of training, and I'm looking at you when I say that training, you can get a lot out of it. Like what you put in is what you get out. And I know that's such a cliche phrase, but if you don't let the airsoft build the bad habits, then you will actually gain some knowledge in terms of application of firearms manipulation or in terms of small unit tactics. But then when you look at the fact that there are respawns and that most airsofters don't fear getting shot because we know it's a game. And if I get hit, I'm pulling my dead rag out and walking back to respawn. So you get this like, it's like Call of Duty. Don't worry, man. There's a 3-second respawn timer like that. So you'll very quickly get I don't want to say an ego, but you'll get complacent in knowing it's okay to get shot when it's not okay to get shot.
Well, not only that, but like engagement distances like that, you'll stand out in the open.
And that was something.
He's 100 yards. Oh God!
And that was something I was trying to convey to Matt when because he did his shadow day this weekend. Like that's why companies like Milsim West introduced blank fire, because one of the suckiest parts about airsoft is there are a lot of times where I can see you before I can shoot you because you're outside of BB gun range. That's not the case with real guns. Like what's the effective range on 5.56? That's just rhetorical because it's way further than what we have to deal with airsoft.
Well, what do you think of this? So the explanation for this debate topic is that ChatGPT gave was a controversial debate questioning whether airsoft is just a safe haven for people with extreme gun enthusiast mentalities and whether it encourages unhealthy relationships.
A safe
firearms.
A safe haven. No, because those people are very easy to spot because they're usually pretty antisocial and like
usually out of shape.
Usually, but not always, right? They're easy to spot.
Yeah.
And I think that the community kind of weeds them out. There's in the 15 years that I've been, the 20 years that I've been involved in airsoft as an industry, I don't know. I've seen like 4.
Yeah.
Where I and actually Bob was one of them.
I have one that I don't think we've talked about before, but go on.
And it's basically like Mario and I would have a conversation like, hey, let's keep an eye on this guy. Like, something's off about this guy, and usually they turn out to not be a problem. But a safe haven, no, it's not.
So there was, if we're going to talk about those kinds of people, I have a funny story. So this was 10 years ago. It was at a different field. Sometimes people like to have kits, and they like to have like cosplay inspired kits.
I thought you said kids.
Yeah, no, like, kits.
Yeah,
like KITS.
Sometimes.
Like we have nerd kits. This dude was wearing a tan trench coat and a top hat, and he had that like $20 spring shotgun that's mag fed and only fires 1 BB down the tube. Like, you know which one I'm talking about?
Yes.
And like, if you get it from e-bike, they might have the option where it's got plastic wood. Like, you know which one I'm talking about?
Yes.
And
I used to have the same one.
Right. And I looked at him and I made the joke. I was like, dude, that's so funny. Nice Inspector Gadget kit. Because it's Inspector Gadget. And this kid had to be like 18. He looked me square in the face and goes, no, this is my Columbine kit.
Oh.
And I was like,
you're on a list.
Oh, fuck. I was like, you're the person that gets airsoft a bad name. Like, the community weeds those kind of people out because I saw him once. That was it. And after like somebody else heard it, I heard him get bullied. So like the airsoft community will very quickly correct itself. However, in terms of a safe haven, I don't think so, but it is a safe environment for you to nerd out. And I think everybody needs an environment where they can nerd out in.
Yes, but it's not a safe haven for people for
like gun nuts. No, but for kids to show up and be nerds, like how many times do we see kids come in and they refer to the guns on the wall by Call of Duty names?
Yeah.
Like the Vector has now been arbitrarily renamed to the Fennec because that's what it's called in Call of Duty, because now we're in a state where video game companies are afraid to put real firearm names in besides the AK, because if they get used in some kind of negative light in the media, they'll associate it to, they played video games. They knew what it was because of a game.
Well, and also licensing probably.
I think people
part of it, but those companies are pretty on board with it now. I mean, we see it with the licensing for airsoft guns. If they're okay with it for airsoft, they would be okay with it for video games.
Yeah.
I think people that clump gun owners or gun enthusiasts into this category of like extreme domestic terrorists, they just don't understand not gun culture, but just culture. You know the saying, like sane, moral, prudent, sane, sober, moral, prudent, right? Like there are a majority of the airsofters I know that also have real steel and are firearm enthusiasts. If they're not cops or military, they are just citizens that are exercising their right, which in itself is not extreme. And as somebody that's us, right? Like we shoot, you were also previously in the military, but like, it's not like, oh, if somebody was in the military or was a cop, those are good guys with guns. And then if somebody is a citizen and has a gun, like, oh, that's a potential red flag. You got to put them on a watch. It's like, it's not like that. It's like
there's a very,
the equipment has to be divorced from the person doing it. And it falls into the same argument of like, do violent video games make kids want to?
But I also think that connection that you're making, where you're like saying the equipment needs to be disassociated from the person, I feel like that's regional. Like in New York, yes, but in Texas, no. In the same way in Northern California, no, but in Southern California, yes. It's regional because, like, prime example, just cultural differences. In New York, it's kind of like still hush hush, like, oh, you have a handgun permit. Like, don't tell anyone that you're not like super cool with because they might freak out. Like, we still have to sign the document that says, like, please don't put my name on a public record for owning a handgun. In Texas, it's commonplace. In Pennsylvania, it's commonplace. It's a regional thing. I don't think it's a societal thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of, especially in cities and things like that. I think a lot of people who are really anti-gun and live in these big cities, I think that they think they have never talked to or been around somebody who's been concealed carrying, and I think they would be extremely surprised if they could do an honest count and see the interaction that they have with people that maybe they respect or had a good interaction with, and then to come to find out that yes, they were armed. I think they think that their interaction, like everyday interactions, they are not interacting with anybody who has a firearm. Therefore, all these interactions were good. So there's no need for firearms or whatever, right? And I think if they knew how many people they interacted with who were concealed carrying right in front of them and they were fine, they were safe, there was no argument, nobody got shot. It's exposure, right? I think the mentality is just not there. I also see the argument for if you're living in a densely urban populated area, maybe you shouldn't have a fucking AR, there's nowhere to shoot it. And to use it in self-defense would almost be reckless because of the living situation. I'm talking about Manhattan now here, where the apartments are this big and there's 40 people living. Is that really good? I'm also in the boat that a right is a right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's entirely true.
And if you're responsible, you can be you can own a cannon in New York. You know what I mean?
Yes, you can.
You can own a cannon.
But we can't own tags.
Yeah, right. You can own a cannon, but as long as you're not firing it into your neighbor's house, you're good. You could have a cannon in New York City. And if you're responsible with it, I'm not saying you're shooting it from one building to another.
Now, are cannons dope? Yes.
Yeah.
Do we have cannons? No, because when we have to spend our fuck you money on that type of stuff, we're getting practical things like, oh, we want to do USPSA what I'm saying?
The funny part is when you're talking about the exposure, I've actually seen that firsthand because for the first 6 months I had a concealed carry permit. I didn't tell my girlfriend's mom, and she's like extremely anti-gun.
Yeah.
And it wasn't out of a fear of telling her not wanting to know. It never came up in conversation. And I was respectful about it because technically in New York, if you're going to go into someone's home and you're concealed carrying, you have to ask them permission because it's their property. Like, are you okay if I carry on your property? So I just left it in the car. I have a lockbox in the car. I left it in there. After about 6 months, it slipped up where I was just like, oh yeah, I just got done shooting a competition match because where we go for USPSA is like 5 minutes from her house.
Yep.
And she's like, oh, like an airsoft thing? And I was like, no, like real handguns. And that's when I explained, I was like, yeah, I have a concealed carry permit. And she goes, how long have you had that? I was like,
murderer.
No, I told her, I was like, I've had it for about 6 or 7 months now. And she goes, do you carry it like a lot? And I go, yeah, every day. And I watched it click, and she was like, huh. Because you could almost tell she realized, she's like, I've been around a firearm and nothing's gone wrong. Like there's been no accidents that the gun just didn't go off, because a lot of people seem to believe that, much like we were talking about earlier, where your son, you had to explain to him that the gun's just not going to go off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right with that. But to circle back to the airsoft question,
yeah,
no,
like
we're not.
is this a safe haven for that? Like, no, because we don't appreciate that. If we meet people like that, or if they express certain ideas or opinions that suggest that, like, they're sketchy, like, we don't look at them as like, oh, it's a fellow gun owning 2A brother, you know. No, it's like, no,
we make those jokes like, hell yeah, brother.
Yeah, but like,
I think on terms of airsoft too, Zulu does a good job of like enforcing just safe gun handling practices.
That's what I was going to say.
With the airsoft guns.
With the airsoft guns,
Yeah.
right? So that demonstrates, a certain level of competence, and maybe if somebody was teetering and they're in the real gun world or whatever the fuck, and I'm not saying they're teetering on going and shooting to bleep that.
Oh yeah.
But they're teetering in terms of like they're new to gun ownership, and they're not, maybe they think it's okay to walk out your front door and clean your gun in your fucking driveway, or not use a gun bag, or point it at their buddies and go, huh, 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 click, that type of shit. I feel like maybe when they come here and we, mags out, clear the gun, keep it pointed in a safe direction, that type of shit. Maybe they're like, oh, okay, if they're doing that with these toy guns, then maybe I should apply that to the real thing. Well, I don't know.
That's what I was going to say. I think the actual true answer to the question is the exact opposite. I think airsoft harbors an environment where you can safely learn about firearms, and you can safely learn about culture, and learn also in terms of building relationships. Because I made the joke to a customer yesterday, a lot of us, if you put all of us on paper and just looked at our entire lives, none of us would be friends, except for the fact that we all play this game with toy guns, and now we've become friends because of that. Yeah. Like Tyler versus Eric versus Alex, like on paper, none of those people make sense. But
also, how many dads have come here with their kid to get their kid their first airsoft gun? Not even because they want to play airsoft, but because he's like, oh, I want to teach my son.
That's how we met Matt.
Yeah, I want to teach my son like firearm safety, and I want to teach him the fundamentals, and it would be way safer and cheaper to do that with an airsoft gun than.
I think the real answer to that question is that no, it doesn't harbor, essentially domestic terrorism, but it does create a safe environment for us to teach you about the culture of firearms and the culture of airsoft, and it helps with team building and communication skills, and it builds you friends. Like Dylan and Tyler, I've been friends with them for 15 years now because we met sitting outside this building. That's airsoft at its core, is it helps you build relationships.
Yeah. And when it comes to like people with guns, right? I think there's like 4 people. There's the minority of the population, as in like, this is 1% of the 1% of the most disagreeable people in society.
Oh yeah.
When they get a firearm, they get very emboldened and are going to do criminal fatherless behavior.
I'm going to bleep the name.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, it clicked.
Yep. And then there's dudes that actually just have firearms because they hunt, and the idea of using it in self-defense or anything like that doesn't really cross their mind. They're just like, this is just the thing I used to hunt. Yep. Then there's people that have a gun, and they think like, oh, it's just to protect myself. But if this happened and that happened, I know how I'm going to act, and I'm ready, I'm prepared. And they are so woefully wrong, because they have no idea how they'll act in that stressful situation, and they don't do any training, and they just think that them having the gun.
Also that same person.
We watched did I show you the video? Cole Noir. Cole Noir did it. And that example you just gave, basically somebody bought a gun, put it underneath their bed, and never looked at it ever again.
Yep.
And then somebody invaded their home with a gun, and he was awake, alert, and behind a closed door. And then this guy came in the room, and there was this gunfight at 4 feet.
Oh my God.
And both of them just shit the bed, but ended up shooting each other in the leg. It was wild. They both shot each other in the leg. But exactly that. You could tell, no training. He bought the gun, put it under his bed, and that was it. Like,
and that's, I mean, honestly, that's really dangerous though. If somebody's going to own a firearm and not train with it, like in that 0.1% moment in your life where you need it the most.
Yeah.
If your lowest form of training is hiding in a closet to,
Weird
to
question.
ambush and then miss from 4 feet away, that's not good. And then the last person, and I put myself in this category, right? I think like an armed society is a polite society.
Yes.
Right. And I don't think it's because, everybody knows that this person's carrying, so I'm going to be nice to him. I am more afraid of ever having to use my firearm in self-defense. I am so afraid of ever having to use it on a human being. I'm more afraid of that than I am of being a victim in a situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I get what you're saying. You would rather you go through the process now of removing yourself from those situations as opposed to
exactly.
continuing on. Yes,
exactly.
much like road rage.
When I was younger, before I carried, I was more apt to flip somebody off on the road if they were being an asshole. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Now it's like I am avoid conflict central because I understand that like the only circumstance in which I would ever use it is where it's lawful, which means that I'm being met with deadly force or my wife or kid are being met with deadly force.
Well, now, and you're pre-thinking every situation. Like if I flip this guy off, he takes it the wrong way. He's got a shotgun in his trunk because we live in Vice City.
If it escalates to that point, I might legally have a means to defend myself, but like
that doesn't mean
you could have.
I don't ever want to you also escalate.
You could have diffused it 10 minutes ago by just not paying attention.
Yeah.
And that's the right way to.
If somebody flips me off or calls me a name or is insulting,
you just smile and wave and say, "Hope you have a nice day."
Yeah, like I just have that fear in the back of my mind of ever having to use it.
Well,
and it's not because I've done it and know what it feels like. It's just, I can abstract how awful it probably is to take a human life, and I don't ever want to do that. And you hear other people's stories and there's situations where people are completely legally in the clear. There's nothing they could have done to avoid the situation. And they did what they had to do to protect themselves and their family. And they're still traumatized for the rest of their life because sure. I don't want to be that guy.
I watched one video many years ago and it was a Ring camera footage or whatever. It was in Pennsylvania and these neighbors across the street are yelling back and forth at each other about the snow, about where they're shoveling snow. And the neighbor across the street came back out.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Shot and killed both of the fucking people in the street. Everybody's dead. He goes back inside, broke up, like everybody's dead over fucking shoveling snow. And all it would have taken is for somebody to just be like, you know what?
It's not worth it.
It's fucking snow. I will never die over where I shovel snow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you also don't know you don't know what that guy's day is like. He's going through a divorce. He's down to his last fucking 50 cents. His kids fucking hate him or whatever the fuck. And then you're like, oh, the fucking snow. You never know what's going to, the straw that's going to break.
And none of the people in that video are airsofters.
No, none of them.
And I think
this is just
what I think airsoft is great at is, occasionally people do get salty.
They do.
And people do escalate a little conflict. But when it happens here and there's referees to separate them, people get to experience those emotions and that adrenaline when, they have a conflict with somebody and then it gets to be resolved. That's a stink bug that just fell from the ceiling.
Hello, good sir.
What's up?
Hey, now we have a special guest.
This is Phil.
He's very nice.
Yeah. And
no, I get that. Cause even like when two players, it's always the who hit who, or I got shot too many times, or I hit you first. No, I hit you first. It's that bullshit.
It's like with my kid, kids get emotionally
invested.
Well, they get upset. They play a game and they lose, they get upset.
Yes.
So something happens, they get upset. And it's like, by teaching them, let them go through that.
Yes.
And let them go through that, and have them do, that's why having kids do jujitsu is great, because if you roll around on the mat with somebody, it's like,
you've been talking to Sean.
Well, psychologically, the rough and tumble play, it's like preemptive exposure therapy.
Correct.
And it hones you and your emotional response and your hormonal response, like the adrenaline, when you get into a certain situation. And having been, if you have experience with that, you're more likely to not see every conflict as like
as a life or death threat.
Right.
So then you don't resort to the life and death solution, right?
Right.
And I think that's, man, you touched on
Acorns.
I think there's I think that right there is the cause. Get ready to bleep it. Of school. I think that there's no tools in the toolbox. So when the bullying happens or the physical confrontation happens, there's no tools in the toolbox. So the only tool they know is grab a gun. And that's how they think that they're going to fix it. That's the solution, right? If they had jujitsu, if they've ever had their dads rough and tumble play and be on top of them and put them in a slightly uncomfortable position, but their brain knowing like, oh, this is not new. I've had somebody push me or bump up against me. It's not going to hurt. It's not going to kill me. I know how to react to it, whatever the fuck. Those are tools. Yeah. And if all I have in my toolbox is a hammer, it's hard to fix a window. A window pane. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. When the window pane has a crack and all I have is a hammer, how the fuck am I supposed to, whack, And I think the gun is the hammer, and
I'd co-sign that.
Yeah. And so there's no tools in the toolbox anymore.
Jordan, I'm like, all right, look, Jordan, right now this problem with this airsoft gun can't be fixed with a gorilla, right? We have to approach it with a gazelle.
Yeah. I'm sitting there hammering the same pin 50 times.
I'm like, hold on.
Fuck it.
This is a gazelle problem. And I'll like put it on the vise and I just gently tap it out and it's like, oh my God, it came out.
Yeah. So, I mean, this probably can all be tracked back to, the absentee of fatherhood, which is a thing. And
well, what you described before is very much like crime of passion with bleep it out school. That's a deep rabbit hole.
Sure. There's a lot
psychologically. That's not adrenaline.
But where does it start?
Resentment, nihilism.
It starts with that.
Yeah.
It starts with that in the hallway. Somebody pushing you.
Heat of the moment. Yes. But
no. That's
the manifesto writing, premeditated.
Yeah, but that comes later. It's the feeling of being attacked. This is not an attack to you and I. That's not an attack. No. That's just like hey.
Imagine if when Phil fell, I was like, ah.
If that's not threatening, if you don't perceive that as threatening because like, oh, it's just fucking push me, then it doesn't even register on your radar. But if that scared the fuck out of you because nobody has done that to you before, nobody's broken that physical barrier before, then that becomes an attack. And so now I need to. So that's where it starts. That's where the knob gets flipped.
Sometimes it's just words.
Yes,
and cyberbullying.
Yes, because at home we're not exposing. And I'm not saying you should look at your fucking infant and be like, "You fucking piece of shit mother." No, that's wrong. But giving them the emotional.
I'm making them tough.
Yeah, and giving them an outlet, like that's a big thing too. Like just in terms of like you said, jujitsu, some kind of activity where it's arguably physical. There's some kind of like hurdle to get over in terms of like, you need to get better at this. Something with competition, essentially. It could help.
Also confidence building. I mean, there's a ton, but
jujitsu's nuts because
you're going to get wrapped up like a pretzel before you even blink.
You'll go against somebody and you'll realize there is nothing in your physical strength and your skill set. There is no scenario right now with you where you're at where you will ever beat this person. This person will always be able to beat you in this.
I just want to point something out too. None of us here at this table do jujitsu.
I did a couple.
I've watched you try.
Yeah.
No, I did a couple classes and it was just the cost. I want to get back into it, but it was
the closest thing I ever had was.
It's worth it to do one class.
Yeah, the closest thing I ever had to jujitsu was in the Marine Corps. We called it bull in the ring. It was just two guys. You could do softening blows. We called them, so you could like punch in the ribs or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was wrestling. It was wrestling with a sprinkle of technique. Like, oh, you learned this in Marine Corps martial arts, which is a joke. The joke is that Marine Corps martial arts teaches you just enough to get your ass kicked.
Dale Brown.
Yeah, and so we would just
Marine urban survival training.
Yeah, we would just flop around on the floor until somebody choked each other out. But it's still good, right? Because you still get yourself an uncomfortable, like you find yourself in a rear naked choke.
Yeah.
You've tucked your chin. You're pushing up on the elbow. It's uncomfortable. He's trying to pop your head, but he doesn't have it in yet. So it's going to suck. Yeah. Your jaw's going to shift a little bit and it's going to suck and you're going to grind your teeth. But, if you can just last longer than the strength in his arm, And so I've been in that situation many times because I wasn't particularly good at bull in the ring. And And I learned very early on, like, A, it's very hard to choke somebody. B, I know what it's like to be in that situation multiple times, choked, or somebody attempting to choke multiple times, and they're using all of their strength, and it hurts, and you feel like your jaw's going to break, but I know that it won't, and I know that that can only last for 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And then you're good. And so never being in that situation to somebody else might be fucking scary.
Yeah. And airsoft in some sense is like that.
Yeah.
To some degree. It's almost like the martial, it's like fencing for sword fighting. To some degree.
I don't know. That just kind of opened up the door in my head, because I had a customer that I can never remember his name, and I had an hour conversation with him yesterday. The one that you built the WE gas blowback M4 for.
Yes.
He asked me about Milsim West, and we've talked about it a lot. I've done like 20, and he wants to do one. So I was explaining to him, like, hey, if you go to a woods game, it's torture. If you go to a mount site game, it's a little bit easier.
It's a different kind of torture.
It's a different kind of torture. I was like, and I explained to him kind of what we tell everyone. If you can make it through Friday night, you've kind of made it through the whole game.
No, yeah. Saturday night.
No, once you get through Friday night, once you get through Friday night, like you can rough it out. And we had this long drawn out conversation where I was explaining to him like how you can prepare for it, and how, in my opinion, MSW is like 85% mental and 15% physical, because the staff will wait for you, but we won't carry you. Like, in terms of, like, I've watched Periano fall back and wait with someone that's fallen out of the ruck, but he's not going to put that dude's ruck on and carry him up the hill. Like, that's not going to happen. They'll wait, but they won't help. And trying to push that across to him. And I told him some stories about, like, the one we went to in West Virginia where Connor almost froze to death, and we were drinking boiling water to stay warm, and it was miserable. We didn't even get into a gunfight until Saturday at 11 a.m. Like, it was just torture. And he asked me, he's like, did you always want to do this? Like, at what point in time did you think this was going to be a good idea, and now you're down this rabbit hole? And I explained to him, like, I didn't know I wanted to do this, but my first MSW game was so torturous that I learned so much about myself in terms of I'm not physically capable and I'm not mentally capable, because I wanted to quit the entire game. And then it turned into this like self-bullying addiction of like, I want to keep doing this because I want to get to a point where I look at it like it's so fucking easy. It's a normal weekend.
Well, so Milsim West has done one thing very, very well, right? And that's at the end of it, there's a sense of accomplishment, because it's just the right amount of suck. And for anybody who's never been to a field op or anything like that, that's new. You're uncomfortable the entire time. I don't care if you go in the summertime, wintertime, whatever fuck, you're going to be uncomfortable the entire time. You're sleeping outside, you're sleeping on the ground. I mean, that's just uncomfortable. Sleeping on the ground sucks. Yeah. Like, it's not your bed. You know what I mean? So the feeling of accomplishment after the first one I did was Balcar Ridge, where it rained and it sucked. It fucking sucked. It's 55 degrees. You're soaked. You're setting up shit. That's where I learned that, not to use black 550 cord, because under red light it fucking becomes invisible. And
and like,
it's there's some intestinal fortitude and some mental games happening, and you just gotta fucking bear and get through it. And even if you never fired a shot, I still argue I haven't been to one in a while, but at the end, there is a sense of accomplishment. Yeah, you did a thing. You did a thing that's slightly harder than the average person who is an IT guy. You know what I mean? Like, you did a thing.
And I told him, I was like, look, on paper, I was like, 2023 was like a year where we took it off from MSW. Like, we didn't go to one. Yeah, it was like, and I had a pretty shitty year outside of Airsoft, and I was getting out of shape, and I was sucking wind. And I said to him, I was like, I wanted to go to one just to tell myself again, like, you can still fucking do this. So I started rucking and running and doing all this stuff just to go to that West Virginia game and get tortured. And Hoffman and Connor looked at that game at the end and were like, we're never doing another MSW. I looked at it and went, I still got this. I'm good. Like, I felt accomplished at the end of that game. I was like, that's kind of what I'm chasing. Like, we make the joke, you're chasing a dragon. It's not always the waking dudes up at 3 a.m. in their sleeping bags and shooting them. It's kind of also just getting through a game that hard. And that's something that Airsoft and MSW helps bring out.
It's also it's the homies.
It's the homies. Yeah.
It's the friends you make along the way.
It really is.
Sure. And they create an environment where you guys are all kind of suffering together. Yeah. And that's a thing. Suffering in a group is a thing. Like,
not only do you like bond together in the suck, like when you're out there alone in the pouring rain in between two PBs, but it also helps you embrace It's not just the camaraderie and friendship. It's also when your friends betray you. Like when they don't wake you up at 2 a.m. for the assault.
Well, they tried. They woke the wrong person up.
Should we tell that story?
Yeah, tell the story.
So
I forgive you, but I'm still upset.
So we hate telling airsoft war stories, but this one's really funny.
There's not much war happening here.
No.
This is just
So this is ball car in PA last year in May, and it was Anthony's first game with the grommets, and it was very funny. We had accidentally staged our PB about 500 or 600 yards from the Rust 4 PB, so it essentially turned into CQB base assault in the woods for an entire game. And around 11 p.m., it was raining. We were going to take a nap, and we were like, all right, guys, at 2 a.m., we're just going to recon down the road. If there's security, we're going to shoot the security. We're going to run right into the Rust 4 PB, kill as many dudes as we can, and run out. Like light kits, drop all your shit, just like pocket mags. And Anthony's like, I really want to go. I really want to go. Okay. Where are you going to go sleep? And he's like, I'm going to sleep right near Richie, like on the road. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I put my shit out. I went to bed. Drew came over, woke me up. He's like, hey, it's 1:40. I'm like, cool. I'll get up.
we were supposed to
We were supposed to meet at 1:50.
it was 2. We were supposed to meet at 2 to go and do the thing.
Yes, you're right. And I look over and I see a little Dorito under nods of a sleeping system, and it looks like Anthony's sleep system, and it's about Anthony's shape. And I'm like, okay. And I walk over and I wake him, and he's just like, "Mah." And I was like, dude, we're going. Like, are you coming or not? Like, I was not in the mood to deal with Anthony. And I was like, come on, get up. It's time for the raid. And he's just like, "Mah." And I go, are you coming or not? And he goes, no. And I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. And I walk out to the road, and we couldn't wake Richie because he was snoring up a storm. And Drew's standing there. There was a couple other dudes, and they're like, hey, where's Ant? And I was like, he wouldn't get up. And they're like, all right, fuck him. And we walked down the road, shot the Rust 4 dude that was on security. We got within like 30 feet of him because we followed as he was walking away towards the PB. He just kind of turns around, looks, and he's like, huh? Whack. Shoot him. Run straight into the PB. We shot like 20-ish dudes cumulatively, and then we immediately pulled out. Took about 6 minutes. And we run all the way back down, and Drew looks at me and goes, well, since Richie and Anthony couldn't be bothered to get up for the fucking raid, it's their turn to pull watch. Go wake them. So I go back to the same dude. Richie, I knew where he was. You can hear Richie a mile away. And
Richie snores so loud.
I go back over to the same dude, and I wake him. And now I'm a little pissed. I was like, get the fuck up, Ant. And he goes, what? And he like opens up his sleeping bag, and he's like, who the fuck is Anthony? And I was like, who are you? And he's like, says his name. I'm like, what squad are you in? And he says a different platoon. And I'm like, why are you in our PB? And he goes, well, I don't know. My dude told me to put my stuff down. I was like, well, it's your turn for watch. And he's just like, I'm still not Anthony. I was like, oh wait, that's right. You're not Anthony. I was like, where the fuck is Anthony? So I like look around, and just like 50 feet away off in the woods, I see another Dorito, and I'm like, no way, no. And I walk over, and I just like gently tap him, and Anthony's awake like he was been up for the last 4 hours. He's just like, is it time to go? And I'm like, I am so sorry.
I looked at my watch.
yes.
It was like 2:11.
I was like, I am sorry.
We were supposed to meet at 2. It was 2:11. I was like, all right, 15-minute window. Maybe some of the guys, maybe they were late to wake me up, right? So I was like, all right, cool. I was like, are we gonna do it? I was like, we're ready to go. He's just like, we already did it. I'm like,
I like bent down, took a knee. I'm like, I am so sorry.
I'm like, you're fucking with me. I was like, you're fucking. It's 2:11. You did that already? They did.
Yeah.
And then I pulled watch, and it was wet and cold.
Is it time to go? Yes, but
sucked.
not to where you think.
And I walked over and woke Richie, and I was like, yeah, Richie, you also need to pull watch with Anthony. He's like, all right, that's fine. He's like, how was the raid? And I'm like, thank you. Yep, that's fine. Just get on the road. Just get on the road. Oh, I'm sorry, Ant.
Yes, you're just in time to get up and stand watch.
To be fair, if I remember correctly, I think I went and stood watch with you guys too because I felt bad.
We're gonna start using air tags.
No. Just on your sleeping system, dude. Just get a fucking one of those patches that is IR reflective or glow in the dark.
Which also, in my defense, Anthony said he was going to sleep right next to the road, and he was like 30 feet off the road. I slept right next to the road.
I was 30 feet next to the road.
Yeah, I was next to the road. It was like
4 miles
road.
next to the mountain.
Yeah.
Just like I said.
Sorry, bud.
But yeah, so I mean, is airsoft an excuse for gun nut culture to flourish in a safe environment? No, it is not.
No.
It's a safe environment to be bullied.
It's an enthusiast. Yes.
All right. Do we want to take a quick break and then hop into the QA section?
Yeah. Let's do it. I got to pee anyway. And welcome back from our break where we talked about things that can never see the light of day.
Thanks for the blackmail, guys.
Yeah, right. Nobody's running for office ever. Without a large payout
To me.
Jordan mysteriously goes missing 3 weeks before my campaign starts.
Yeah.
No, I would just gentlemanly agreement, and I would be in Cancun.
Yeah, exactly. Jordan quit all of his jobs and he's rich now. Very strange.
It's a world travel.
He bought an island and people go out and visit him.
That's going to get taken so out of context.
That's all right. Yeah. Not in the way you're thinking, but so we got some player submitted questions.
All right. Yeah. So we put out on Instagram that we were doing a Q&A episode. And players asked some questions. There's a few of them. Let's start with one that gave me a little bit of a giggle. No offense. This is from Sleek Sicario on Instagram. When or is Zulu going to go indoor and all CQB?
So interesting story behind that. Okay. So many, many years ago, back when Mario and Phil were still a part of Zulu, we had a discussion, a very serious discussion about, in addition to the outdoor field, opening a separate indoor field. And we actually got as far as like looking at properties and we found a building, I believe it was in Nyack. And then ultimately we just had a heart-to-heart sit down and talk about it, because the next step was like,
signing a lease,
putting out a lot of money. Yeah. And we all were just like, yeah, it looks good on paper. The numbers look good, but none of us like indoor.
Yeah.
Like none of us. So if our heart wasn't in it, you're going to do a bad job. Right.
Dave.
And we didn't want to fucking do that.
This isn't you.
What?
His meds wore off.
Good one.
Well, I remember at one point in
you.
time, we had also had another conversation about the same thing, because the Kmart in New Windsor had went out of business.
Yeah.
And that was just a big open retail store.
That would be a huge indoor field.
Well, the idea, we put some thought into this at one point. It was a tabletop shop conversation.
Is it still empty?
No, Planet Fitness moved in. And they only moved into half of it. The other half is a Spirit Halloween for 2 weeks a year. But
Brilliant.
yeah, we had talked about like, oh, that'd be pretty cool. You could split the building down the middle, make one side a Speedsoft only field and the other side a Milsim field. And again, it was just a tabletop conversation, but that idea very quickly got shot down because we were all like, we don't like playing indoor.
Yeah. And I feel like if your heart's not in it, dude, you're not going to do it for the right reasons. It'll be a cash grab type thing, which means that the quality go down. And
yeah,
it's just, I don't know.
So ultimately, Zulu is not going to be an indoor field ever.
No, not with me. I mean, if later on down the road, somebody, becomes part of the business and that's their thing, and I feel comfortable enough with them, because honestly, I wouldn't.
Because that's even more staffing. That's even more logistics.
Sure,
now,
but that's fine, right?
Yeah.
Because the best staff are players that enjoy that type of airsoft,
correct.
Right? Like, so just naturally through being open and having an indoor field, you're going to find players that enjoy that and are smart enough and to be a staff, right? Yeah. But it's not my passion, and I wouldn't. It would not be a good product. It would not be worth it. Plus, the rent on that building was like fucking $12,000.
Yeah, it was astronomical.
The electricity alone, we couldn't be able to afford it. But
all right.
So no, I'm not currently entertaining that idea.
All right. So next question. This is from Frenchie_Airsoft. And I actually like this, and this is going to turn into a pretty good conversation. Do you think the Boss unit is a replacement for blank fire in countries where it is banned or restricted? And should it be treated with the same rules like a 20-foot, 180-degree half circle from the barrel? So like the Milsim West rules, where at Milsim West, if you're going to do blank fire, you cannot fire it in buildings. You cannot fire it out of buildings. And when you are firing it, it has to be a 20-foot minimum engagement and 180 degrees of the muzzle. Me personally, no. I think it's a good alternative to blank fire. I think it is a great substitute for it in countries like England and France and Spain, where airsoft's pretty popular, but they can't do blank fire. But it is also not blank fire. So I don't think it should be treated like blank fire. I just think it's an ambiance thing, that it's a great thing you guys have it, but it's not something that directly replaces.
It's also a lot safer than blank fire.
Yes.
So, I mean, blank fire is a real rifle.
Correct.
With a BFA. A lot of people use the Hollywood BFA, so you can't even tell that they're in. But they're still...
concussive force.
Well, there's fire, and debris still coming out of the barrel. Hence that 180 degree. It is about the noise, but it's also about. I mean, people have died from, not in Milsim West. People have died from blanks.
on movie sets. Yeah.
Movie sets, and like they're still dangerous. There's an element of actual danger there. I mean, aside from like the crazy person that brings live rounds and does that shit, right?
Alec Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin.
I'm bleeping that one.
The boss unit, you can literally put your hand over it and shoot.
Yeah, we have.
And you're fine. Like it's just loud. It's not as loud as blank fire. If you go to an event where they're using tag grenades indoors, then there's zero reason why they shouldn't allow
the blank or the boss unit.
Boss unit. Now, in terms of Milsim West, should the boss unit replace blank fire? Absolutely not. It's just an amplifier.
Yeah.
In all terms, it's still an airsoft gun with an amplifier. It's a dope ass amplifier. It's a really good amplifier.
It's cool,
but I don't think they should change their rules at all. It's still an airsoft gun. And in terms of other countries, what they really might, it's the noise. The noise might be the deciding factor, not the fact that it's replicating a shot. Like that's not.
Yeah.
So would it be a good alternative? Absolutely, it would. In countries where you can't own guns or whatever it is, yes, the boss unit would absolutely be a great addition to the sport. Would it be like blank fire? No.
Yeah, I can see overseas. So like I looked at his profile. I think he's in New Zealand.
You have all the boss units you want down there.
Yeah, because he was tagging Special FX in his post. I was like, I think he's in New Zealand.
Yeah.
I can see in countries where they can't have blank fire, like, New Zealand and Spain and France and England and all those countries where airsoft's played, they may implement the MSW rule set where if you're getting shot at by a boss unit, you have to react to it. I don't think that should be a thing in the US. I think that's something that it's just there for the ambiance. If you react, you react. If you don't, you don't. That's fine. It's not blank fire.
There's a natural reaction anyway.
Yeah, there's a natural reaction to it anyway.
I don't think
overseas I could see that rule set coming in because we talked about some weird rules. Like last episode, we talked about how in Germany you can't have a laser or light on your airsoft gun.
God, yeah.
I can see a rule set being developed around it for those countries, but in terms of direct replacement to blank fire, absolutely not.
And in terms of like implementing a set of rules that is similar, taking the blank fire rules and adapting that to the boss unit, it doesn't apply, right? Because the boss unit, the only thing with the boss unit is that it's loud.
Yeah,
it's not that it's breathing fire out and unburned pieces of powder are coming out or anything like that. It's simply the noise. So it's really more on the boss unit user just to be courteous.
Yeah.
And all of those things can be mitigated if an airsoft player just wears Hearing Pro, whereas with blank fire, you can get seriously injured regardless of wearing Eye Pro, Ear Pro, whatever.
Even if you have like a catastrophic malfunction with a blank, the firearm could become a potential hazard.
Sure, right? So no, I don't think the rules for blank fire should be adapted or applied to the boss unit. It's exponentially safer than blank fire.
I think this one Anthony's going to have some thoughts on. This is from...
Why are you...
I'm not even going to try and say this because this is one of those Instagram handles where it's just a bunch of letters. But he asked, thoughts on the Wolverine Gen 12. Is it going to be allowed at Zulu? Are there going to be special rules for it?
Is that the shotgun?
So it's the Wolverine MTW shotgun. So it fires 6 or 12 BBs per trigger pull. It's HPA.
It's a single barrel.
It's a single barrel. And it uses SR25 mags.
Okay, so what's the problem with it?
He's asking if it's going to be allowed here, if we have any thoughts on it, if there's going to be any special rules for it. Because I know there are some fields where they've already made the rule set of like, you can use it, but you can't use the 12 shot. It has to be on 6 shot.
Who fucking cares?
There's a muzzle device on it that gives it spread, similar to like how the Flak 10 had that.
I think I watched a video of it and it looked like the FPS was dog poopy.
Yeah. Oh, it's meant to shoot a low velocity.
When you fire that many BBs out of a single barrel,
you can't. Yeah. So I have we'll chrono it, and I don't care. I don't care if it shoots 12 BBs. I don't care.
Okay, so this one is from No Anomaly. Would you allow riot/ballistic shields if they were weighted? Not like those plastic see-through shields that you can buy on eBay. Throwback to the first Are You a Normie? But more like the Vant shields or replicas of them that you see at Milsim West.
For open play, no.
For open play, no.
No, it's mobile cover and it's dumb, and we already talked about all this. The mentality of the user, it's not here. So maybe for a very special circumstance, for one frago of an event, Sure.
The Vant shield works because it's a Russian thing that Rust 4 people use at Milsim West when they're LARPing is Rust 4 and wearing all the Rust 4 gear and I guess using Rust 4 tactics, right?
Yeah, they do. They don't do dumb shit with it. So
yeah.
But no, I think get shields out of your head. That's low T. Shields are low T, man.
Okay. Let's see. What else we got?
What if getting shot in the shield counts as a hit?
No, because no, you hit the twig in front. No, that's like saying if you're wearing plates, you can take 2 hits. It sounds good. It's like communism. Sounds good on paper. Actually, communism doesn't work on paper. It sounds good in theory, but you get shot once up here and then you forget. Now it's 2. Is it 2 or is it 3? Or did you hit me here? It's fucking dumb. Just
okay. So I got another one. This one's from YouTube. From ELA7682. What's your opinion on Airsoft LARP events?
Oh, like Revelations?
This is an open-ended question. That's all he wrote. What's your opinion on Airsoft LARP events? So
I've never been to a good one, but I'm sure good ones do exist. But there's some challenges, and I've thought about this, right? So the challenge of a LARP event, right? And when I say LARP event, I'm thinking of post-apocalyptic wasteland where
well, that's the thing. What's your interpretation of LARP? Because to me, that closed
Milsim West is a LARP.
Milsim West is a LARP.
Yeah.
That closed game that we did with Grimnir here, the Bounty Hunters game.
Oh, that's right.
To me, that was a LARP.
Yes, it was. And I think when I think of it, I think of I'm making armor out of license plates. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And
yeah. So like Battle Hacks Revelations.
That's what I think of, right? And I think most people do. The challenge with that has to be resetting Airsofters' default mode. Airsofters' default mode is shoot. You have to erase that somehow. Whether BBs are currency and everybody who joins the game gets 5 BBs.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And you have to make BBs more valuable to trade than shoot. Because if you just you bring whatever BBs you want, the game's going to start, and within 3 minutes, it's going to turn into an Airsoft game. People are just going to be shooting at each other and everything. So I could see that as a challenge. But I mean, apparently Revelations has done it, right? They get thousands of people every time.
I think their player count is 1,000 for that.
Yeah, and I think
which is wild at Battle Hack.
I don't know where they park them, but whatever. But I think if you went to one of those, I think we would be surprised because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of shooting going on. And I think that's the key to a LARP event is that it's like the old Eddie Murphy joke. He's like, don't do gun control. Just make bullets so expensive that you're like, nah, you're not even worth the 10 grand. Make bullets 10 grand so that you're like, so if you give BBs that value, and so you're like, like
you're not worth the 6 millimeters.
Yeah, right. And maybe because there's a lot of chaos gremlins out there, and who just go to fuck shit up, right?
Oh, that's me.
I hate you. And
I hate me too. Welcome to the party.
Then I think it would go pretty well. Like once people get past it's not an Airsoft game, but then actually kind of invest themselves. And you see this at Revelation. People set up booths where there's fun games you can play. I think it would be cool. What's my opinion on it? I think Airsoft can be whatever you want it to be. And if you enjoy that, then get after it.
I was going to say, because you've run a LARP event before.
Oh, which one?
The Deployment.
Oh, Deployment. Yeah.
To me, the Deployment was a LARP game. That was a lot of fun, but it's a completely different kind of LARP than...
It's a Milsim West type of LARP.
Yeah, kind of.
I played an Op Fallout game years ago. Op Fallout. And it was themed after Fallout. And as a Fallout nerd, I was all in it. All right. And
that's right.
I remember it was an EVIC sponsored event, and it was Platykill Paintball. It's a paintball place. It's the field with the
PSI.
Yeah.
Right up the road. It's right by my house.
Yeah, it's the field with the road that you can cross.
Yeah.
Awesome terrain.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Awesome woods terrain, awesome. But yeah, I remember there was I guess an in-game. There were a couple in-game admin NPC players. So there was a Brotherhood of Steel guy who had the armor and had an LMG, and he had to get shot a couple times to go down. But then after a time limit, he'd come back up and start shooting.
Played a game like
so
that
there was one of those guys, and there was a super mutant. So you had these guys kind of walking around, and they were like nobody's friend. And then there were factions. you had to get issued BBs. So there were black BBs being used on the field that you had to get, and there were bottle caps, and the bottle caps could be used as currency. I didn't really get to use that mechanic while playing it, but throughout the game, there was the timeline, like the schedule of the day, and at certain time points, your character would level up.
Oh, interesting.
So at the beginning of the game, you're restricted to a pump action, a bolt action, or if you had an AEG, you had to muzzle load it.
I remember reading this, yeah.
And then you can go to semi-auto at another point, and then towards the end of the game, it's full auto, and everybody can just go nuts. But BBs were still scarce. And there was a vault, and the vault was in the middle of this plywood village. And in this building, there was this it was like a Sudoku puzzle or something, but you had to unlock the vault. And people are trying to unlock it, and everybody's like raining in on the town. And
that's pretty cool.
It was neat. It was neat. And I got to enjoy it because I was LARPing the Fallout. I was feeling the game.
So how much during that game was like human interaction to solve issues, and how much of that game was pull the trigger?
It was pull the trigger to solve issues. But when you weren't doing that, you were scavenging, looting, trying to unlock this vault.
See, I think a Fallout game where BBs are so rare that you really I'm talking, you get two BBs at the beginning of the game, like individual BBs, right? And then the game, you never level up, right? So it's always bolt action, pump, or pistol. Because you would have to talk to people, and that's where the LARP really happens, right? Like that's where you can actually find yourself let yourself go and be in this world. And then the reality of it kind of just fades away, and now you're truly in the Fallout universe. I think that's awesome, and so it's defeating the default setting.
Yeah.
Whereas that one kind of like toyed with that, but then at the end they were like, all right, here you go.
Yeah. There was a lot of players.
Yeah.
A lot of it. Any moments where it fell out of the LARP, it was just because there were so many players, and you're right. BBs weren't as valuable, so everything was just shoot.
I like that they were black though.
I could never forget this one guy I was running with at one point in the game. He had this WeTech Glock 18.
Oh boy.
And he had the gun with the long 50 round mag, and he had a can of green gas, and he would hold his gun upside down, fill it, right? Do a full auto burst that he only got 3 BBs out of before it just completely ran out of gas because there was something wrong with it, and he would fill it up again.
But did he have enough BBs to fill that mag?
It was a 50 round mag, and he was refilling it every 3 shots.
No. Was it full of BBs, the mag?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's what I wouldn't want to happen. I would want him to have 10 only because he did a job for this guy. He did a quest for this guy, and the reward was 1 BB. And so he did all these things so that at the end of the game, he's got.
You know what I remember? They did make a big deal over looting the BBs.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, we got to get the BBs. We got to get the BBs. And I remember
see, but that encourages.
And then they were going to issue it out, for everybody. The game admins were going to do that. And then when we got the BBs, they were just like, all right, here. And
yeah,
I don't know.
See, I think like to do a 3-day event with, we'll just say 200 people, I think you should get for the entire event and show the players a half a bottle of BBs. This is the only BBs that are in this universe. There will never be more. There will never be there will be less when you shoot them. But once this is gone, there's no more. So that raises the value. It's scarcity, right? So that raises the value of those BBs, and in turn raises the value of your decision making. Is that guy is he important enough for me to kill right now? Is he my quest? Do I have a quest to go kill this guy? And if so, I need to make sure I do it in one shot. There's some cool things that could come from that. I would like to see a game like that. I don't know if Revelations is like that because I've never been.
Yeah.
But obviously it's very successful. And because I see them setting up vendors and stuff like that, the players are all setting up vendors and shit. It's got to be
something on
pretty
that.
Tame. Yeah. I'm not opposed to them though. I mean,
that was a rabbit hole I didn't expect you guys to go down.
Sure.
I love that.
I've always wanted to go to that place in Pennsylvania that does
lightning bolts.
Yeah, medieval LARP.
What if you let those guys rent the field to do their medieval thing here?
I would join right in. I would love the shit out of that.
Dude, Dave loved not the Gun Gamers, the Grimnir event. So it was a private. I don't want to go too far into it because Ian and Max didn't like fledge it all out and like make a game out of it, but it was a test run of a game they had. And Dave and Barbara and JoJo, they moved the snack bar onto the field
in
and
the Connex.
in the Connex. Yeah. And that was like the trader because you had to go in there to get your task.
I remember that.
And Dave went all out, like
cool.
suit, MP7. He was the bodyguard for the snack bar. Barbara and JoJo were in costume. They were selling like snacks and stuff out of the front Connex. Ian and Max had the game set up in the next Connex over. And I walked in like just trying to play because I was going to be a Chaos Gremlin. And my target was Nick. And I helped Nick walk all the way around the field and get his target. And then I killed him right away and was like, thank you, I will take your card. And went and claimed the bounty. It was a very fun game. It was very LARPy, but he got all in on it.
I love it.
He was the vendor security, like fucking full suit and all. It was dope.
Had a hat and everything.
He's
Great.
If Dave says LARP, he's in. Like that's it.
It's fun to kind of suspend disbelief and
in the same way that like we get really into the kits for MSW. That's his thing. Like he wants to do that kind of LARP, and I'm all into. I want to try it.
I want to do it. I would hate to run it.
I've always wanted to do the what's similar to the lightning bolt thing. I've always wanted to do that archery tag with the bows and arrows with the foam tips. I want to do that so bad.
I feel like I don't see a lot of high value target being used in games. Like at the old Zulu, there was a event there where there was like the president. And Rich Moore was the president.
That's right.
And he was in a suit and he had an MP7.
Yeah. That's
I'm not going to say which president he resembled.
But the thing is, though, when you make a high value target, you're basically just saying, hey, player, you're going to get shot more than the average player. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I remember like if you shot him, he was down and then you got to capture him.
Yeah.
And I remember like both teams were basically fighting to get the HVT.
Yeah.
It'd be like adding on a side mission for an op where whoever the sniper team is, they have to snipe the enemy team's commander to get the 5 points, stuff like that.
It's cool when the prop for the objective is a person.
Yes.
And you can reason with them. And they might be like, I don't want to go with you. Right.
Well, but default setting, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to get past.
Resort to violence.
Yeah. Default setting is shoot. And
right. But if they're good actors, like if you choose the person that's the HVT, then if they're like, oh, I don't want to go with you, you have to convince me. Like if 10 dudes, point a gun at them, that guy should be like, okay, I'll go logical with you.
Yeah, as opposed to being like, I've been shot with airsoft guns before.
It's like, if you shoot me, I'll just go down for 5 minutes and then I'll do this until the other team. Yeah.
Like I'm of the opinion that NPCs and airsoft don't mix. Like that does not work ever my brain.
They can if they're staff.
Yeah, you just need to have good.
They have to have a vested interest in the product.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Like there were some games we ran here where Sean was.
Yeah, I thought about that.
Where Sean was an HVT and Sean did a good job with it.
Yeah, well, that was because when the boys tried to get him, he grappled them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, fully consensual.
Yeah, fully consensual. I have a video of it somewhere. Ricky and Steve tried to get Sean to go with them, and Sean had been like a year or two into jiu-jitsu, so that wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And it's just Ricky rolling with Sean in the middle of the school. Like, yeah, that happened.
Yeah, I mean, for the deployment, it worked because none of the OPFOR was free, and also they had to go to meetings. They had to go to one of two meetings to kind of like describe how they should act, fun. And they did a great job.
They did fantastic.
They kind of set the.
Would you describe Benghazi as a LARP event?
A scripted event. I don't know if it's a LARP.
I wouldn't say a LARP, but it was a scripted event because there weren't. I mean,
I think this year or the most recent one that we did, the Grimnir Zulu hybrid, that was more LARPy to me.
Yes, that's because there was more non-shooting interaction between opposite sides,
like the Jumbo meet, the
checkpoint,
Wolf Cola,
the Elder meeting.
Can I just say I fucking hated those guys? I'm sorry.
That's all gun gamers.
No, it isn't.
It's their friends.
It's their but it's not gun gamers.
Yeah, they were.
I hate that they took a mentality. They were like, we go to Milsim West, we only know Milsim West, so this is how we act at Milsim West, and they just couldn't break out of that. They just couldn't. And then when we told them to do that, they were like, oh, this game's fucking shut. Yeah. Like, dude, you're not at Milsim West. This isn't Milsim West.
Yeah, like I've been to 2 MSW insurgency games. Everything they did flies. That's at an insurgency game. That is exactly what it's like.
Sure, you can do that, but at this game, you can't roll up into a fucking a compound with a technical and just be like, "We're here to sell soda." Like you have a fucking gun. You have a machine gun in the back of your truck. Yeah, we're gonna smoke you. Like fucking, you're not gonna do that.
It was like 30 seconds into the game.
Oh, dude, I wanted to. I knew immediately from that interaction. I was like, they This is not a good fit for them. Like they're not going to have a good time at this game.
Okay, moving on. Moving on from the LARP. This is a game idea. What do you guys think of this game mode? Radio seize and secure. For large games, you have 2 teams that have a set spawn point, but a mobile radio or flag point. The teams are free to move around the field and move the radio, but the first team to capture the enemy team's radio and bring it to their spawn wins. Bonus points if the objective is heavy. For full map games, it would be fun for hitting each part, trying to figure out where the enemy hid their radio. So I kind of get what he's getting at here is like, red team, blue team, you both have a radio. You guys spawn it. Power lines, you spawn at checkpoint. You decide to go hide yours in the Haji camp, and you guys decide to go hide yours out behind Vietnam in between the fisherman shack. It doesn't have to go to a flag point, but you have to like hide your radio beacon because that's the objective.
Well, and it can move.
So if you see that dudes are starting to hit the fisherman shack pretty hard, they're going to find the radio pretty soon. You grab it, you bring it out to Dirty Mike's shack, but also now it weighs 100 pounds, so you need 2 or 3 people to carry it.
I dig it. I think it's a great idea, and I mean it can be anything. It can be
that's like World War III.
It can be a box of rocks.
Yeah,
that's like World War III with 2 teams, but then you can change your base.
Correct.
Essentially.
Yeah,
Kinda.
Sort of. And you could work a 3rd team into that aspect.
That'd be too complicated.
Yeah.
You could, but that'd be too complicated. So, I think it's worth running actually, and we can try it both ways, right? We can do
where you can't
a light prop,
a
light prop, and then a heavy prop, right? Just to see, because you don't want the prop to be so heavy that 2 people can't move it effectively.
So I think like
makes it too easy.
Light prop be like 15 to 20 pounds.
Not even. Just we can use the watch cases that we have, the red and blue one. Just I'm talking testing purposes, right?
Okay.
And there would have to be it doesn't matter. We just play it raw, right? So we just because it's a very dynamic game.
Yes.
It's a game that could be run for an hour or 2 hours or 15 minutes, depending on if you have a shitty team that just doesn't care and wants to shoot people.
They throw the box at Fuel Depot, and then you have a track star that runs all the way to Fuel Depot. It's like, look, a box, and runs it all the way back.
Exactly, right? But I mean, that could create some very dynamic experiences where you're moving back and forth, and they're moving back and forth with their thing, and there's fights happening in weird spots because of where everybody's moving.
Because now the objective's on the move.
Yeah. The only thing I would add to it for a gameplay thing is some sort of noisemaker on the prop.
So like a beep?
Not loud.
No.
But I would want it to be loud enough that if you're within 15, 20 feet or even 40 feet, you can hear it.
So that's kind of like when you
should put on a smoke detector with the dying battery.
So
I heard somebody call that a
Yes, there's a reason why. I can show you the videos off air.
But,
yes,
that was the funniest shit I've ever heard.
Imagine if the beep on the radio was so infrequent, but so distinct. Like you're in the woods and you hear the chirp and you're like...
and you only heard it once. You can't really tell where it came from.
As opposed if it's like, meep, meep.
Yeah, it would be that.
Have you played Battlefield 3 or 4?
I mean,
both.
Yes, but
okay. So when we first were talking about this off air, and it's kind of like a mobile respawn. I was getting it like the spawn beacon from Battlefield, where like you can't always hear it, but if it's in the next room over, you hear that beep. Yeah. That where it's like a beep like that, where it's consistent. Maybe it happens once every 2 minutes, but it's a beep that's just loud enough to hear if you're like 30 feet away.
Yeah, if you're close enough, So that way you can't just throw it in a bush and
you can't just
walk away from it.
Yeah. I think for something like that, absolutely, it would be really cool. There could be another thing where like that, because I could see a player just like chucking it in the bush or being like, oh, it beeps. We're going to put it in a lake and you're not going to hear it. It's underwater.
Motherfucker.
Yeah.
We're going to ruin this prop that we didn't pay for. Ugh.
Chaos gremlins.
Yeah. Fuck those people.
You have to make maybe a requirement of like, it has to be visible from within 5 feet. Something like that. So you can't put it in a bush or can't submerge it in a puddle.
Visible is so subjective. And somebody's going to leave like a little corner of it and be like, it is visible. There's a little corner of it. I think the noise is a good indicator. And what would be neat, and I'm sure there's technology to do this. We have the technology, is to, as the game progresses, so maybe the game's been going for 30 minutes and they're all just like,
make it louder.
Yeah, you can slowly increase the volume and the frequency of it so that by the end of the game, it's like beep, 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 beep. So it's like, well, it's right here,
That's actually cool because if that'll make it harder for the game to drag out.
Yeah, and it's also, it's almost like a battle royale, the circle starts closing in to make you go, and you know what I mean?
Go and search for it.
Yeah. Involuntarily, you will just know where it's at because you're like, it's right. Jesus.
Because you're at the mosque and you can hear it in the trenches.
I want to be in the situation where like we're there with our radio and then they start closing in and we're like, crap, it's the fuzz. We got to go. We got to grab the radio and go. I want to be there.
Yeah.
That sounds like a fun,
But then at that moment, the volume gets increased and you're like, oh shit.
Oh my God. What if like every time you move it, it gets louder?
Oh.
That would be way harder to do.
Whoa.
Because it would have to be. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Didn't foresee that one. Would it be motion activated?
If it was, the volume would instantly go to
Because
100%.
you would have to move it from your spawn to wherever you're going to place it to start. So it would just go max out.
Or what if the beep is at a medium level, except on the box, there's 2 buttons. And when you depress both buttons, the beep stops. But as soon as you let off, the beep starts again. Right? So you can.
Okay.
Right?
If you're one dude in the woods hiding the radio and they're coming, you have to sit there and hopefully
both hands, no gun.
Hopefully they don't catch you.
Oh fuck!
The box is this big, so you have to use your whole
Yeah, I was going to say
arm
you have to put the buttons far enough apart that you can't just like pinky and thumb.
Yeah,
like it has to be like a foot and a half apart.
This is what'll happen. Somebody will take tape and just tape one down.
You have to. It has to be big enough to.
Hey, work smarter, not
It
harder.
has to be big enough to.
No, you recess the buttons, so then you have to put your fingers in it.
Rock and tape.
Oh yeah.
You have to.
Again, Chaos Gremlin. Fuck.
You have to 2-man carry it. It has to be.
Well, that's why I said make it like 100 pounds.
It has to be big enough to 2-man carry, and then that button mechanism. It has to be something that like, it's doable.
We have the technology. That would be that.
We can
Dude,
make it. The challenge.
And it's not like a super intricate prop because we have
it's easy.
The challenge is how much money do we want to spend on the prop? Like, are we going to put a Raspberry Pi in it so that it?
No, like $40 max. Because that's the one thing that we had talked about with our producers hiding good gameplay behind intricate props, or are they actually putting the thought into the gameplay and the props come secondary?
Yeah.
It's a good game idea. And if you have a slightly more intricate prop, this can make the game even better. It's not the prop
It's a box with 2 buttons.
Yeah. Because again, this started as simple as like, hey, it's just a box. Like it's a fucking box. And if you find it, you find it. If you don't, good, you hit it well enough. But if you add that little bit of intricacy, the game gets a little bit more dynamic. So this is a good idea of just don't focus entirely on the box.
So this, depending on the turnout this weekend, because we've had shit weather. Fuck the wintertime. Anyway, this weekend looks good in terms of weather. If we get a good turnout, man, I think we should dry run it with just boxes just to see how the game works. We can do buddy aids and
3-minute bleed out, 1 buddy aid.
Yeah, we can do that.
And for now, for the beep, just have a ref stand by the box and be like, meh, meh.
No, run it raw, and then kind of develop the game around that. But that's a great idea, man. That would be. How shitty would that be if it's just you with the box and the buttons are too far apart and you can see the bad guys? They just happen to not see you yet. And you're like, if you let off one, it's going to make that chirp. And you're like, oh.
Your final stand is like the moment you decide, all right, I'm taking my hands off the box.
Yeah. It's almost like a Saw movie.
Yeah.
Like,
That'd be cool.
Oh yeah, there could be some good.
I miss the down pilot games where we'd put a note in the dummy's pocket, and the note would have other objectives to do.
Oh yeah, that was full field with objectives. Yeah, that was fun. But no, we used to be so much better than we are now.
This radio game.
Well, that's why Dylan and I started coming up with a bunch of other ideas.
Yeah, this is a good one. That's a fantastic suggestion, dude. That
yeah,
we just brainstormed the fuck out of that one.
Well, yeah, because even to be fair, when Dylan and I start game planning games, it starts just like this. That's exactly how it plays out.
Whoever submitted that, good job.
Yeah, you're thinking outside the box, or in this case, in a box with 2 buttons that are too far apart. You can't do it with one hand.
Because I still want to run that 3-team game. We just need enough players to run that.
Sure. It's wintertime, slow.
Yeah.
Do we have any more? We have
questions? Some troll ones.
Some troll ones? Cool.
Yeah, this one's from Andy. He asked if he could take his iPro off on the field.
Can you or may you? Can you? Yes. You can always be dumb and do that. May you? No.
And that about wraps up for the questions that we've got.
Oh.
Is it that time?
Is it that time? Is it time
What time is it, Anthony? Is it Normie? We nailed that one.
Yeah, I was ready for that.
On the fly.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, Jordan, what's today's Are You Normie topic?
Well, do we want to talk about the one that I brought up or that you brought up?
Oh, the one I brought up.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
that's a good one.
Are you a normie if you count your kills in Airsoft? This was not a player submitted one. This is one that Dave brought up.
Yeah. So on the surface, the clear answer is yes.
Yes.
Right. And there's an argument to me like when you first get into the sport, the lowest bar is simply hitting another person with a BB, right? And then as you play more, that kind of loses its flavor. And the next thing for me anyway was how you shot that person. What tactics did you use? Did you run up a freaking mountain, you're out of breath, but you still managed to get that shot in now? Or did you, in a team setting, did you set up a base of fire, maneuver, and sweep through and that, right? That's usually the progression. So to sit there and count your kills is, to me, something that a new player would do because that's still exciting, right? You're not past that yet. However,
that's not quite the definition of a normie, though.
Well, I think being new to the sport is a contributing factor.
It's a contributing factor
to being a normie,
that's
right?
not the definition that we established.
All right, whatever.
I will see your is it normie if you count your kills, and I will raise you a is it normie if you etch your kills on your
Hold
gun.
on. We'll get to that.
So
we'll get to that. I want to hear Dave out.
That's a fantastic
I have an opinion on
segue. But then, okay, so that was so my thinking up to this point, which I'll get into, was like, yeah. If you're so when I was in the military, there was an individual, I won't say his name, and he had these marks on his cat eyes. Cat eyes are a piece of elastic that go around your helmet, and they have little glow in the dark things in the back so that if nobody has night vision, they can see you, whatever.
Don't mind that.
It's the box.
It's the radio.
No, it's the pellets. Don't remind me. I need to put pellets.
So
Damn it, Timmy, put your hands back on the buttons.
So this individual had hash marks on his cat eyes,
Okay.
like 15.
Oh,
And so I asked him, I said, hey, man, what's going on there?
now was he doing it like Vietnam style, where it was like 4, and then the 5th one was the line through the 4?
No, they were just straight.
Okay.
And he was like, oh, those are my kills or potential kills. And I was just dying laughing. I was like, we're in an infantry line company. To sit there and say, I shot, that is silly, because whenever we took contact, it was like, everybody, fire superiority. So everybody's shooting at trees and in houses. There's no way to tell, is what I'm getting at. And I was so cringed out by it. I was just like, oh, man. And plus, he wasn't really an infantry guy. He was something else. And whatever. I digress.
Dave's getting heated.
I digress. So yes, my initial thought process, if you're counting your kills, it's like, oh, okay. Like you're probably wearing a black hoodie too. You know what I mean? Like,
Get the dye mask out.
yeah. But then I went to an event, my favorite event of all time. It was a Grimner event, Bully Grimner.
Bully Grimner.
And it just so happened it was me, Hoff, and Connor in the same squad with these other two gentlemen. I won't say their names. We referred to one as the dentist. Very, very highly skilled players.
Okay.
All right. This is not their first day at all. They knew what the hell they were doing. They had the right gear, night vision, and all this stuff, GPS tracking and all this stuff. But they counted their kills
Oh boy.
out loud. And I didn't hate it.
Now, okay, I have a counter question. Was it saying simply as like, oh, I got one?
No.
Or was it like you guys just finished that gunfight and you're like, I shot 5 of those dudes?
No, it was at this point in the event, I have 29. What do you have?
Oh.
Yeah. So they were like keeping a tally between the two of them. And at first, Hoffman and I, we just give each other the look like, oh, man.
like,
But then we went, because we were like a small reconnaissance, web gear.
Like we're the special forces.
No. We were reconnaissance. And so we were a 5-man team. And I'm telling you, it's my favorite event because we were used like reconnaissance.
Okay.
Spending a lot of time in the prone type shit. But anyway, we would go out with them at night and during the day, and they were proficient as fuck.
Okay.
Like they knew the things like you don't have conversations while you're walking through the woods, right? They were being quiet. They were using hand and arm signals.
They knew how to not step on every single twig.
Yeah, right. They weren't like throwing rocks into lakes and shit. Like they were doing all the right things.
Oh, look, a snake. There's a snake on the ground.
Yeah.
Shooting the water to watch the BB.
Yeah, right. Right outside the enemy 5, right?
Yeah.
No, they were doing all the right things. They were very good airsoft players. They were very good tactically. It was just this one thing. And this one thing was that whenever we came back to our fob, they were just like, how many did you get? How many did you get? Oh, I got 5. I'm at 31. You're at what? 37? Oh, man, I'm trying to get over 100 by the time. And it was just.
He's trying to drop a Moab, Dave. Come on.
I mean, it was like, but respect, dude. They were excellent airsoft players. I would not call them normies at all. 0%.
So I can agree with that, because to me, simply getting excited about hitting another player is the basis of airsoft. Like, we're here to, like we were talking about with the Fallout question.
That's the initial hit of crack.
Yeah, it's the dopamine where you're very much invested in, I got to actually experience what this sport is about, much like with the whole thing we were talking about with Fallout. People get into that. The basis of airsoft is they're getting into it to get into force-on-force engagements and get each other out or shoot each other, however we want to look at it. So I don't think you're a normie for being excited about the game. I think personally, I've progressed to the point where I don't care if I get 1 or 10, as long as I got my thrill out of it, whether it be going on a 13-mile walk around the entire property just to shoot 2 dudes in the back and then run away into the bushes and all of his friends are like, where'd he go? That's fun for me. I'm okay if I only get 2 kills during full field conquest, but I've also been doing this for 15 years. So I'm not invested in the number, but I am invested in getting something.
Being effective
and small unit tactics or doing a reconnaissance thing. So I still get excited about that, but are we any different than when we get excited about dropping dudes in their sleeping bags at MSW?
Yeah, but you don't count how many.
That's true.
And then you don't remember that number and add it to the number previous.
If you remember anything, it's who. Who did you shoot?
Yeah,
That's true. You get excited about who, but not the count. But I think it falls into the same thing. You're not a normie for counting your kills. You're a normie if you put hash marks on your box mag.
That's a step. Yeah, that's a step up.
Yeah. So I will see is it normie to count your kills, and I will raise you is it normie to etch your kills onto your gun?
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's redeemable.
Okay, look, hold on. There's one player that plays here. I very much like him. He's a good dude. He's funny. He's super polite. Like, everything about him is very fun. But I looked at his Crytek LMG box mag, and I'm so sorry I'm throwing you under the bus. It had like 30 fucking hash marks, and it was like the 4 tallies and then the line. And I looked at him one day. I was like, I got to ask, what is it? He's like, oh, that's how many kills I've gotten with this gun. And I'm just damn it. Fucking normies. Yeah. Damn it. And like, he's such a good dude. So I feel bad throwing him under the bus, but that was a physical, like, God damn it. Come on. So yes, I think that's a normie action.
I think if Garantham did it, it would still be a normie thing. Like, it's kind of, that's just one of those things. If it's your cup of tea, then it's your cup of tea, and nobody can tell you otherwise. But we're just saying you might fall into this category.
And just like the last is it normie topic, the only reason why I know that it's normie to etch your kills onto your gun is because my revolver, my Dan Wesson revolver, I have kills etched into it.
Fucking normie.
Back from my normie days.
You also used to play with a feather in your hat. You fucking normie.
I think every airsofter goes through that phase. Yeah. I think every airsofter does.
I didn't do that. Did you do that?
I'm sure at some point I saw a feather and put it in my. I'm sure of it. If I saw a feather on the ground,
I remember one day
I've done some normie shit. I haven't done that.
Yeah.
I used to always wear the feather, and then I remember one day I found another one, and I had 2, and I walked up to you. You were behind the register, and you looked at me. You were like, "Oh, now you're double."
So what I have absolutely done is taken a stick and you put a stick in your hat, because when the gnats come out, they go to the highest point in your body.
But that's not normie.
No, I understand. So I could totally see that I absolutely probably at one point saw a feather and was like, oh yeah, that works better than a stick. I'm positive I have done that. I'm positive. Yeah. It wasn't like, oh, Carlos Hathcock, white feather. It was
that's where I went to. I was like, Anthony thought he was Carlos Hathcock.
No, Anthony's just ADD and he saw a thing. It's just like, if it wasn't
shiny.
If it wasn't in his ear, it was going to be in his hat.
It was a whole campaign. It was Fear the Feather, 20 whatever year it was.
2016.
Yeah.
Fear the Feather, 2016.
Oh my God.
All right. Counting kills. How do we feel?
Normie.
No.
I'm going to say not normie.
No.
Only because of my experience.
If you take it the extra mile and you start etching it on your gear or on your gun, yes.
Normie. So etching kills?
Oh, wait. I have a counter.
Oh.
So I've seen one or two YouTubers that do this. If you put your kill count in your video, is that Normie?
No, that's just you trying to. That's clout chasing.
If you keep a year-long tally of how many kills you've gotten for a year through your YouTube videos, are you a Normie?
Well, you've documented it, and since you started it for
those
the
are just
clout,
statistics at that point. It's
okay.
Also,
is it Normie to put hit markers in your video where you?
I thought about that one too.
yeah. Well, also too, kill counts on a vehicle. Not Normie.
No, that's cool. You
That's
got to
World War
properly,
II.
yeah.
Yeah, that's like. So we live in this weird world where etching your kills onto your rifle is no good, but etching the kills onto your airplane is good.
I don't count kills anymore.
No, of course you don't. You've transcended.
No, but like I don't even like care.
No, I don't care.
You know,
As soon as I got the boss unit, I realized very quickly. I was like, I think maybe I got one guy out.
yeah.
But the rest of it was just me making noise. Like,
I'm really into the small unit tactics.
yeah,
KD's just a
my
number.
tism.
just like your weight.
Well, so this might be a Normie action. I don't know. Let's find out. One thing I did over the summer prior to the boss unit showing up when we had the leaf tops and our guns were trying to be quiet, I started playing a game with myself of how close can I get to another player before they realize I'm there? And can I shoot this player without alerting anyone else around them? Normie?
No.
Did you count it?
I did not. I just gave myself that challenge. It's like the same thing of like, I'm going to play an entire full field conquest game, but if I get hit and bleed out, I'm going back to the parking lot because I'm done for the game.
You're dead?
Yeah,
Oh,
I did that.
I don't know. That might
That's
tippy-toe.
hardcore.
That might tippy toe into
Is that a Normie
I don't
action?
know.
Because I
It might
did that.
tippy-toe in
I did
there.
both of those at the same time where it was like, how close can I get to another player without them seeing me?
So if you bleed out, you start the whole story over again.
No, you're off
to
the
drop
field
all your
till
gear.
the next game. I only did it for full field
You
conquest.
have to use a rental when you start.
Yeah, it's Tarkov. I got to go back and get better loot now. I did that where it was like, hey, get as close as you can, shoot them. Hopefully, if they don't, no one around them sees you're there, great. Try and get out of there. But if you die and you can't be buddy aid and you bleed out, you're going back to the parking lot. You're done for the game.
That's hardcore, but it'd be more hardcore is if you paid to play for the day, and if you died, you went home.
Oh fuck!
And you don't come back till you reincarnate.
You don't come back till next month.
You give yourself a cooldown, so it's like a month.
Yeah, that's what I said. You don't come down until next month.
Think of how differently you'd play if you gave yourself a 6-month cooldown.
Now you just cheat. You would just cheat.
Yeah,
that's what people
that's what
would do. They just
I've
fucking
talked to a lot of players where they're like, "Oh, we should play no respawn games." I'm like, the moment you start restricting respawns on the average player, the cheating goes up.
Yeah.
So like with ShamWow, how many times have we had to yell at a player where it's like, "Hey man, you guys can't respawn right now. I've now seen you get shot twice. Stop respawning. Your team's in control." Shit like that. Once you restrict the respawns of a team, now you induce cheating. That's why I like more of the wave respawns where like you guys can respawn, but you have to be in groups of 5 because then it's like, okay, you're not sitting there for 20 minutes while your team has the ShamWow.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. For me, I'm not invested in it. I don't pay to play. So I just, if I get shot and I bleed out and I have to walk off the field because I don't have a respawn because I didn't give it to myself, I'm okay with that. To the average player, if we said that, there'd be some problems.
Yeah, I think that just shows. Yeah, oh God,
There'd be some problems.
We'd play entire games where nobody got shot.
Yeah,
mysteriously.
This is an hour-and-a-half long game that's full field, and miraculously, no one died.
Yeah.
What if you count how many people you got with a grenade kill?
Not Normie.
If you throw it on a roof,
Normie, because you're justifying
and
the cost.
You go up on the mosque roof after you throw a grenade, and you're just like 1, 2, 3, 4. You're like, yo, I got like 13 dudes with that.
That would be
Yeah,
amazing.
well, that's
I
like
would
the
be
same
happy
thing
with
as
that,
like
yeah.
a player asking after they throw a grenade, and I'm reffing, and I'm like 10 feet one room, and I'm like, oh hey, you guys are dead. That player asked me, how many did I get with that? That's not Normie. That's them being like, I just spent $12. What's my dollar to kills ratio?
I'm justifying.
Like I got a good one of Tom throwing a grenade over the mosque fence. He got like 6 dudes. I walked over, like, dude, that was 6 kills. That's a $2 per kill ratio. You did great with that grenade. For the amount of times I've thrown an EG and it's like, fuck, I missed the window.
Or a tag.
As you approach infinity kills with one grenade, the cost of the grenade goes down.
Correct.
So as you approach infinity,
Your cost per
there's
mile with it is great.
there's a point where the grenade is free. If you get enough kills with it, it might as well be a free grenade because of the cost
12.
to kill.
Well, no.
that'd
12
only
would
be
be
$1.
$1. So it'd be 1,200.
Well,
That'd be a penny.
yeah.
12,000.
Sure. Autism.
Math.
Well, shit, man, that was a good one.
I can only think of one way to get 12,000 kills with one EG, and
Does it involve?
none of it involves anything I can say on the podcast.
Does it involve a? Never mind.
All right, bleep it. It involves.
Oh,
All right, everybody.
okay. That was a good. Okay, let's end on a shitty
Let's end on
note.
that.
All right.
Yep.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was a good one. Guys, if you got more questions and stuff, post them in the comments below. We'll get to them. If you got any more suggestions for Normie stuff, let us know. And with that, good night. God bless. We're out.
Bully Grim there.
Bully Grimner.
I like Is It Normie? I like it.